Hey everyone, I'd like to go a little bit more into detail about the Occupy Wall Street movement that I provided a slide about. Essentially, it was a protest movement against economic inequality in this country. It took place in the Wall Street financial district of New York City, but soon gained traction and spread to 80 cities around the world. There are a few main objectives of the movement. Firstly, to call attention to the widening gap between the rich and the poor in this country. They wanted to express grievance over the bank bailouts that the government provided during the 2008 recession. And they wanted to bring attention to the ever-creeping influence of corporate money in politics. There's a lasting legacy of the protest, and that was that it introduced the concept of the 99% versus the 1%, and it brought this into the national conversation of American politics and activism. Some of the impacts from this movement are that while it was criticized for being a little unorganized, some of the members went on to help found the Black Lives Matter movement, and they went on to help push for a higher minimum wage in New York, which did eventually pass. It now stands at $15 an hour in the city. And overall, more generally, it changed the narrative in the Democratic Party, especially among the more progressive wing. I think people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren weren't using the language of, the 99% versus the 1% before the Occupy movement happened. And the second question asks, are there any unique social or cultural norms that have played or may play a role in the city's response to events relevant to this module? I think absolutely. New York has always been at the forefront of social justice issues, and those are extremely related to environmental justice issues. A good example is the Stonewall riots protesting for gay rights in the country. The fight for racial justice, shown through the Harlem race riots, and also today, last summer with the protest that happened because of the murder of George Floyd. New York City was a prime spot for those protests. And the climate strike that happened, I think it was a couple years ago, Greta Thunberg organized a massive protest with the world's youth to call attention to climate change. And New York City was a major place for one of those protests. So the people of New York, more so than the government of New York itself, or New York City itself, has always been and will always be a hotbed for activism in the country.